Okay, so you just printed out your stylescapes, and we'll look at those in a minute. But the next thing we're going to move on to, and this will kind of might morph your stylescape a little bit more, or some ideas that you didn't have quite yet might get you there. So we're going to look at some social media, and we're going to take this brand further into like a little bit of a social media campaign. So I'm going to quickly run through some of this stuff here, but I'm going to have you also make sure that you kind of reread it on your own. I'm going to point out some things that I think are really important. So for working with social media, which is if you're going to be running a brand, you have to do it. Even if you're an anti-social media person living in the graphic design world, you don't get to be anti. You have to understand the value. So one thing is your goals. What are you hoping to get out of social media? Do you want to sell more stuff? Do you want people just to start following you? I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Depends on if you're selling product. It depends on if you're an influencer. It depends on if you're promoting a brand and what that brand is. Another thing that's really important is who's your audience. How old are they? What platform are they going to use? If someone's trying to sell to me, I am out of the demographic of Snapchat. So you are not going to make something super, you're not going to put a lot of money into that platform. And then engagement is really big. How are you going to get likes? How are you going to get people to follow you? How are you going to get them to interact enough so that the algorithms of all these platforms are working for your benefit? And then resources. People will ask me all the time, kind of freelance-wise, like, oh, can you help me out and do a little bit of social media? So something to start educating people with is that doing social media graphics is a full-time job. It doesn't happen quickly. To do it right, it requires a lot of research. It requires a lot of time, getting the right images, taking images, finding, researching what the active tag, hashtag like words are. And then there is also like tracking software that I might have put a link on this, I'm not sure, that if your business is big into it, you can figure out, someone has written all the algorithms and codes for you to enhance your brand the most and where you should be putting your money into. So you can pay for ads on Facebook, you can pay for ads on Instagram, you can pay for ads on all of the different platforms, but where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck? So principles to enhance your social media posts are like design principles. So this is the stuff that's going to come more naturally to you. And you might not be in the business of social media marketing. You might be working with a marketer and just doing the designs. So you want to have your brand colors, and that's something that you've already created with your stylescape. You want to choose fonts that reflect your identity. You've also worked on that. You want to choose background images with clear copy space. Oh, that was this picture. So you'll notice an image is important. If you're going to have words on it, you need to be able to see the words. As a designer, you pretty much know this, but it's amazing how much I'll see stuff on Instagram cropped right to the very edge of the words and stuff at the very bottom, and it drives me crazy. You're going to present your data visually. If you have like data you want to show, you want to throw up some infographics. Some people will place their logo on all of their items, and you always want to have it in, the corner or a similar spot. Something, too, to be aware of if you start doing Facebook stories or Instagram stories, you have to be aware of what the application already has, like where the comment button is and where your icon is. People are designing all the time under where the story like line is saying it's next, and then also they're putting words below where you would comment, so you don't actually see. So that window of design is even tighter. Use filters to identify your brand identity. That's like some people do all black and white, or they do all duotones, or they kind of come up with an idea that maybe one day's black and white, one day's color, and one day something's in a circle. Just depends. Create visual posts around hashtag campaigns. So like Shout Out Saturday, Tip Thursday, Woman Crush Wednesday, all those good ones. And then optimize your image posts for different social media platforms. So you can't assume that you can make one image and that it'll work on all of the different platforms. You actually have to resize stuff. And we're going to go over something that's really nice and fast on how to create this Instagram feel. And then finally, prioritize images over text. People always are going to like a good image, and people are always not going to read that much. So if you're in the business of selling things and you do want to get them in treat, that says retreat, you don't need to say every detail about the retreat on this picture. That's what the caption area is for, the comment area is for. So this is a little bit interesting, the amount of users. So you have some social networking is Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google+. And LinkedIn and Google+ are probably going to be more business oriented. I feel like Facebook is kind of like, hey, check out my kids oriented. Microblogging would be Twitter and Tumblr. Photo sharing is going to be Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. And video sharing is YouTube, Facebook Live. It's going to be Instagram now, Periscope, and Vimeo. And Snapchat as well. But this is kind of like the different areas. Now, are they all intertwining over each other? Absolutely. But that's what these were initially made for. So you can see Facebook still has the most users in 2017. So this is about a year ago data.
That's the opposite.
What's the opposite?
Instagram and Facebook.
Facebook has the most users.
Okay, I'm seeing it 2018.
Oh, now it's the opposite. Yeah, and we'll get that data. This has shot up. Snapchat has shot down. And I will get updated stuff for some reason. I apologize. Facebook is geared more towards an older generation that makes great use of articles and promotion. Instagram is geared towards millennials, like Lifestyle Shop. It was a platform built on lunch and selfies. Again, things evolve. Twitter is great for engagement and for celebrities. Pinterest is to get inspiration and new ideas. LinkedIn is great for business. And Snapchat, 60% of the users are under 25. And their biggest thing is like selling custom content like geofilters, which is also another side business you can get into. I get hired all the time to make geofilters for Snapchat. So here is a social media cheat sheet. And the reason that we're looking at this is because we are going to take this idea of the brand for the client. So anytime that I create a logo, people always take my logo and put it on Instagram and cut the logo off because it's either a rectangle and they have to put in a circle and it doesn't. I either sent them something that was just the image, so it was like really close. Their artboard wasn't behind it. They don't know which image to use. So to preserve my design, I will set up a page in Illustrator with all these dimensions as a template for Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and all of those things, and just send them a picture for everything. That way they have it there ready to go. And this is going to change. This changes all of the time. And here you have something called minimum and optimal. Minimum, you do not want anything smaller than that. It's going to be super blurry, and it's going to be blurry on a Mac no matter what. We're always going to design optimal. So on a Mac, they have a Retina screen, which means the pixels are doubled. So something that, which is also hard if you go to a company and you're designing on a PC and you're used to a Mac, it just looks really uncrisp and not clear, and it makes it a little bit harder to see what's happening, and people are always going to their Mac to kind of get a realistic view of what it would look like. So we have kind of these numbers here, and all of these numbers are going to be in pixels. So when you're designing for the web, you want to make sure that you are doing some things with pixels. And then the last thing of the resources is does anyone use Hootsuite for anything? Hootsuite is great. So if you are doing things for social media, you can have all of your platforms in one place. You can load your images up to be that you want to be sent out for the week. So you can take a couple of hours in a day and you don't have to be like, oh, well, I did some research and it said the best time to send this post out is going to be at, 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. So I don't want to be awake at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. So Hootsuite's going to send that out for me. You schedule all of your graphics. It stores hashtags for you. There's even tracking software that you, like on a pro plan, that you can buy if you want to get all your analytics sent to you. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? So we're going to set up some social media profiles and covers. I'm going to quickly run through the different stuff that you will have to get through this week. So using the social media, the demo class, which I'll do now, in the social media cheat sheet, I'm going to open up Illustrator. You're going to create a Twitter profile pic and a header photo, a Facebook cover photo profile. Basically, it's just going to be a cover and a profile for each. It's going to be monotonous, mundane work. It's going to be the same thing over and over, just formatted better. So every single profile image that you have for all these companies will be the same. So this might feel really easy, like it's not hard enough. It is easy, but it's an important part when it comes to designing. And then your header photo or your profile or your cover, all of those might be the same. And they might feel a little bit different than the profile picture. They're bigger, you can have more information, you can have a photo for the company that's there. So once I'm in Illustrator, and I'm going to try to get my little go back to my cheat sheet. I am just going to copy that. I need to create something new. I'm just going to make sure that this is in web, that we're in pixels. It doesn't matter right now because I'm going to show you how to readjust it. And I'm going to hit create. Pixels is what's most important. So slow. The anticipation. So I am going to get my cheat sheet here. So I can just look at this. And then we need to make a bunch of artboards. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to scroll out a little bit so we can see what's going on. I have one artboard here, but it's too large. So there are things all over the place. Let's see if I can clean this up. Essentials. Nope. It's fine. We'll go with it. So my artboards are going to be here. I'll pull this out. So you have a couple of different ways to get to your artboards. If you're just clicked on the document in your properties panel, you can click on artboards and you can adjust them manually, or you can adjust the width and the height up here. This is when you can move them around, and you can also delete them out of this window. If you're just adding a lot of artboards, you can click here and quickly change the dimensions, which I'm going to cancel because I covered up with this. So if we go back to the assignment, I know that I need, and I always will give myself, so I don't have to be switching back and forth between a bunch of documents. I'm just going to put this out on outside my artboard for now, just so I have it. So Twitter profile pic and header photo. So Twitter, for the profile photo, optimized is 400 by 400. So I'm going to go back into this artboard. I'm going to call this Twitter profile. and I'm going to make this 400 by 400. And I'm going to say okay. So now I have it, and it's later labeled Twitter profile. I want a second artboard. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and then the header photo, which I moved out of the way again. 1500 by 500. So look what it did. That silly thing. It covered over it. So I'm going to go to that edit artboard, and I'm going to move this around. And maybe a quicker way is to click and drag so that I can place them where I want to now. And I can move this around so it doesn't lock me up as much. Facebook cover photo is going to be 1200. Well, and it's hard because now there's a page cover, a group cover, and a regular cover, so they're all a little bit different. If you just do the top cover photo, that's fine. And this is I can rename it up here as long as I'm in the Essentials Classic window. And this will be Facebook cover. And that's going to be, I got to go up here now, 1500, nope, 1200 by 675. And I'm going to move that around. You'll notice if something's on it, see how it sticks when you move? So that's something you do have to think about when dealing with artboards. When I want to get out of this edit artboard, I just click on the selection tool and it goes away. So you're going to have to go through and get all of these different artboards set up. And then you have to decide about your logo. Most of you have one. And because we had a little bit of forethought, we were thinking about logos that would work well in a circle or in a square. No, that's the wrong one. So you might want to say, okay, here's my logo. It looks really good in a square. Let's pretend this is for Instagram. And there's different ways to export stuff. So what happens is it has this nice window for asset export. And you can take this and drag it. But what it does here is it's tight to what this text box is what it exports. And we don't want that to happen for this situation. We need this entire this entire space to be exported because we designed everything based off the dimensions of what's going to fit inside here. And so if you just do this, it's going to be bigger. When they download, it's going to be bigger. And then you also want to double check yourself and give yourself a circle. Now, if I gave them that, it's also getting cut off. That logo is. So you need to make sure that your logo is fitting nice into a circle because you don't know when they're going to decide to have a circle or a rounded corner square for that profile to show through. And then you want to make sure and you delete that circle. Otherwise, it'll come up. That's just for you. And then you're going to have, maybe if you have a secondary version of the logo or some really nice photo. And if it's like the coffee shop, you could have coffee beans with like a dog and then a watermark of your logo or something see-through. If you have a tagline or a slogan, that could go on the cover photo. I'm just going to go ahead and write this here so we can get an idea. So I'm just not exporting clear or white images. And you will have a lot more, and they all will be labeled here. And what's great about this is it's really, once you have, I would get all these artboards set up, and then just save it as a template. Call it social media template. And then you have it. You only have to make it once, and then every time you do something that requires these, you might not need to use you might not need to use Instagram or YouTube and Snapchat, all three of them. You might have different ones that you're using. But they're ready to go. And you can do File, Export for Screens. So when you do Export for Screens, it takes the entire artboard with it. If you just do export as, it doesn't. And what's nice is it already has these, the artboard name is already there. So you don't have to do much except change this prefix down here. I can call this Kava. I can put an underscore. So everything's going to be Kava underscore Twitter profile, Kava underscore Twitter header, Kava underscore. And then here you can change different scales. So I often will give clients a JPEG and a PNG. The only thing about this PNG is it's going to be clear behind it. So if you really want to dictate the color that they're having, you can go back into your settings. If you do this has happened to me recently. If you do a file export and you do an export as, and I choose a PNG and I choose the artboard and I choose my first artboard. Here is where you have the option to go transparent, white, or black in the back. If you change this to white, it's going to stay white every PNG that you export after that. So Illustrator has something called it's sticky, which means it sticks to the last thing that you did. If you create a new document and your new document had 5 artboards in it, it's going to keep creating a document with 5 artboards. It gets a little maddening to me, but it's something to remember. This screen here where you export for PNG and these types of options, this is where I go to when I'm exporting something for print. So this will allow me to have a high resolution of 300 that I need for print, and then I can export it. So a lot of times, like Uprinting or Kinko's or different Vista prints, someone wants an invitation and they take high resolution JPEGs. Out of Illustrator, this is what you have to send so that it's big enough. If you just export a JPEG out of export for screens and you try to go get that printed, the resolution is not going to be good enough because anything exported for screens is 72 DPI. Now that's why sometimes you have this scale. You can add a scale and you can do 2 times, 3 times. So 2 times would be what you have for a Mac screen. And when you're getting into programming, if you're into developing, you have to send they will have a 1 times and a 2 times picture in every server waiting to load, depending on if it's a Mac or PC. Here we already optimized it, so just using the 1 times is fine, and most of these things that we're dealing with are going to be small and mostly just on this phone. So it's going to work. Sometimes when things are too large and they're scaled down, they also get pixelated too, but it's not going to be a problem. Then here you click on what you have. So let's say I don't need the Twitter header and I don't need the Facebook cover. I just take it off. I just need that profile. So even if you have all this template here and there's these screens that you're not using or artboards you're not using, it's fine. You just click them off. So I have my prefix here. And then it'll sometimes automatically go into subfolders called 1 scale, 2 scale, 3 scale. Why they have that is when you're designing for apps for iOS and Android, let's say you have a splash screen or icons, you need all those things to be separated by these 1 scale, 2 scale when you're doing app design. So I don't have create subfolders clicked because it just confuses where everything's at. And then I'm going to pick here out of this window the folder that I want it to go to. So maybe I just pick a new folder, Kava social media, and I can create, and then I can choose, and then I can export the artboards, and all 2 of them, because I had 2 selected, will be in there. Before, back in the day, you have to file export every single artboard by itself separately. So it took a lot of time. This is nice that you can do it all with 1 click. And if you prep right and you name your artboards correctly, then you're going to be able to just really have that workflow a lot faster. Let me stop this because it's getting long.